The wine glass shattered against the marble floor. Lyndon stood there, his face calm as a winter lake, while his wife Marlo screamed words that would have broken most men. But he wasn't most men. Not anymore. Say that again, she hissed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into the granite countertop of their Calabasas kitchen. Say it one more time, Lyndon. He adjusted his glasses, those same wireframes she'd once called adorably nerdy, and repeated the words that would destroy everything she knew. I've been sleeping with Thessaly. Your best friend. For 8 months now. And if you can't accept that, maybe we should get a divorce. But here's what Marlo didn't know yet, what she couldn't possibly know. Lyndon had already filed the papers 3 weeks ago. Before we dive into how this quiet accountant became the mastermind of the most calculated revenge in marriage history, hit that like button if you've ever felt underestimated. And subscribe because trust me, this story has a twist you won't see coming. Now, let's rewind to where it all began. 6 years earlier, Lyndon Ashford married Marlo Kincaid in a ceremony that cost more than his annual salary. He didn't mind. Marlo came from old money in Greenwich, Connecticut, the kind of wealth that whispered instead of shouted. Her family owned commercial real estate across 3 states. Lyndon. He grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, the son of a postal worker and a school nurse. He was good with numbers. Great, actually. That's how they met. He'd been auditing her father's company books and found a discrepancy that saved them $2 million. Marlo had delivered the thank you lunch personally. She was lightning in a designer dress. He was the steady ground that kept her from floating away. At least, that's what he told himself during the good times. The first 3 years were actually happy. They moved into a sprawling home in Calabasas, Marlo's choice, Marlo's money for the down payment. Lyndon didn't care. He worked long hours at his accounting firm, climbing steadily from senior associate to junior partner. Marlo didn't work. She networked. She curated. She spent Thursdays at Pilates with Thessaly Monroe, her best friend since boarding school. Thessaly was everything Marlo was, but sharper. Meaner when she wanted to be. She'd gone through 2 divorces by 35 and wore them like battle scars. She owned a boutique marketing agency in Beverly Hills and drove a Mercedes that cost more than Lyndon's student loans. Your husband's sweet, Thessaly told Marlo once, at a dinner party Lyndon had spent 3 hours preparing. In that harmless kind of way. Harmless. That word stuck in his chest like a splinter. Year 4, things shifted. Marlo started coming home later. Her phone face down at dinner. She laughed less at his jokes, the stupid puns he'd always made, the ones she used to say she loved. You're being paranoid, she'd say when he asked if something was wrong. God, Lyndon, not everything is about you. Maybe she was right. He threw himself deeper into work. Made full partner. His salary tripled. Marlo didn't notice. Then came the baby conversation. I'm not ready, Marlo said, not looking up from her phone. They were in bed, that expensive California king she'd insisted on. Maybe in a few years. You said that 2 years ago. Well, now I'm saying it again. Lyndon watched her scroll through Instagram, double-tapping photos of lives that looked better than theirs. He felt something crack inside him. Not break, just crack. Like ice before it shatters. The affair started on a Tuesday. Lyndon came home early from a cancelled client meeting. The house was supposed to be empty. Marlo had said she'd be at a charity luncheon until 3. But her Range Rover was in the driveway. And so was Thessaly's Mercedes. He stood in the foyer, keys in hand, listening to sounds that didn't make sense. Laughter. Music from upstairs. The specific creak of their bedroom door. A smarter man would have stormed up there. A weaker man would have left. Lyndon did neither. He set his briefcase down quietly, walked to his home office, opened his laptop, and started taking notes with the same precision he used for tax audits. Time: 2:17 p.m. Cars present. Both. Duration: he waited 90 minutes until he heard Thessaly leave. When Marlo came downstairs in her silk robe, freshly showered, Lyndon was sitting at the kitchen island eating leftover pasta. Hey babe, she said, kissing his cheek. Didn't hear you come in. How was work? Fine, he said. How was the luncheon? She didn't even blink. Oh, you know. The usual boring speeches about underprivileged kids or whatever. Thessaly and I left early. He nodded. Took another bite. Let her lie. Over the next 3 weeks, he documented everything. Photos of Thessaly's car in their driveway at odd hours. Screenshots of deleted text messages he recovered from the cloud backup Marlo didn't know he had access to. Credit card receipts from a hotel in Malibu, charged to their joint account, on a day Marlo said she was visiting her mother in Connecticut. His mother who, Lyndon confirmed with a single phone call, hadn't seen Marlo in 6 months. He didn't cry. Didn't rage. Didn't drink himself stupid. He went to work. Smiled at clients. Came home. Kissed his wife. Made dinner. Had mechanical, passionless intimacy when she occasionally wanted it. And every night, after she fell asleep, he compiled his evidence file. But documentation wasn't enough. Lyndon needed leverage. He needed a plan. He needed to make sure that when this ended, and it would end, he wouldn't be the one left with nothing. So he called Garrett Huxley. Garrett had been Lyndon's college roommate, back when they were broke kids sharing ramen and dreams. Now Garrett was a divorce attorney in Newport Beach with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless when he needed to be. How bad is it? Garrett asked over drinks at a quiet bar in Pasadena, far from anyone who might know them. Lyndon slid him a flash drive. See for yourself. Garrett spent 20 minutes reviewing the contents on his laptop. When he looked up, his expression had changed. This is airtight, brother. California's a no-fault state, but with this level of evidence and the financial disparities we can establish, you could walk away clean. Maybe even ahead. What do I need to do? First, we protect your assets. You've been the primary earner for the last 3 years, right? Yeah. Good. We'll establish that the house, while purchased with her family money, has been maintained and improved primarily through your income. We'll separate your accounts quietly. Set up a trust for any future earnings. And... Garrett paused. And what? And you need to decide what you want. Is this about ending the marriage? Or is this about making her pay? Lyndon thought about Marlo's face when she lied. About Thessaly's smirk at that dinner party. About 6 years of feeling like he wasn't quite enough, wasn't quite exciting, wasn't quite worthy of the life he'd helped build. Both, he said. The plan took 4 months to execute. Lyndon opened new bank accounts at different institutions. Started depositing his paychecks there, small amounts at first, then larger portions. Marlo never noticed. Why would she? She hadn't looked at their finances in years. He hired a private investigator, a woman named Keiko who'd been recommended by Garrett. She confirmed what Lyndon already knew and found things he didn't. Hotel rooms charged to Thessaly's corporate account. Texts between Marlo and Thessaly joking about boring Lyndon and his adorable cluelessness. Reading those messages felt like swallowing glass. But Lyndon didn't confront them. Not yet. He attended Marlo's charity events. Smiled at Thessaly across crowded rooms. Played the part of the devoted, slightly dull husband who worked too much and didn't quite fit in with the champagne and caviar crowd. Let them think he was harmless. Meanwhile, he moved assets. Protected his partnership stake with ironclad legal documents his colleagues helped him draft. Compiled a dossier that would make any divorce attorney weep with joy. And he waited for the perfect moment. It came on a Saturday in late October. Marlo's parents were visiting from Connecticut, Desmond and Portia Kincaid, old money personified. They'd never quite approved of Lyndon, but they'd been civil. Respectful of his work ethic, if nothing else. Dinner was at 7. Lyndon spent the afternoon cooking, herb-crusted lamb, roasted vegetables, a chocolate torte that took 3 hours to make properly. You didn't have to go to all this trouble, Portia said, though her tone suggested he absolutely should have. It's no trouble, Lyndon replied. I enjoy cooking. Marlo sat at the head of the table, another small thing that had shifted over the years. This was her house, her dinner party, her life that Lyndon just happened to exist in. Thessaly was there too, of course. She was always there. So Lyndon, Desmond said, cutting into his lamb, Marlowe mentioned you're up for senior partner soon. I actually made senior partner 8 months ago, Lyndon corrected gently. We're considering me for the executive committee now. Marlowe's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She'd forgotten. Or never known. Well, Desmond continued, oblivious, that's excellent. Stability is important. Especially when you're thinking about expanding the family, eh? The table went quiet. Lyndon looked at Marlowe. She looked at her plate. We've discussed it, Lyndon said carefully. Discussed? Portia laughed. At your age, you should be doing more than discussing. Marlowe's 34. The clock's ticking, dear. Mother, Marlowe started. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You two have been married 6 years. We'd like grandchildren before we're too old to enjoy them. Thessaly sipped her wine, a small smile playing at her lips. She was enjoying this. Something in Lyndon snapped. Not the loud, explosive snap of anger. The quiet, final snap of a decision made. He set down his fork. Actually, he said, his voice calm, there's something I should probably tell you all. Marlowe's head whipped toward him. Lyndon. I've been having an affair. The silence that followed was spectacular. You could have heard a dust particle land. Portia's mouth fell open. Desmond's face turned the color of the burgundy in his glass. Thessaly choked on her wine. And Marlowe looked like she'd been struck. What? She whispered. I've been sleeping with Thessaly, Lyndon continued, meeting his wife's eyes. For 8 months now. I thought you should know. If you can't accept that, if you can't work past this, well, maybe we should consider divorce. Wait, did Lyndon just confess to the affair his wife was having with her best friend? And why did he do it in front of her parents? Oh, you have no idea how deep this goes. The Spock is coming right now, and trust me, the revenge hasn't even started yet. The wine glass hit the floor first. Then Marlowe's chair as she shot to her feet. You, what? Portia clutched her pearls, literally clutched them. Desmond's face had gone from burgundy to purple. But Thessaly had gone pale. Because unlike Marlowe, Thessaly understood immediately that something was very, very wrong with this picture. Lyndon, Marlowe's voice shook. What the hell are you talking about? He stayed seated. Calm. He'd practiced this moment in his head 300 times. I'm saying I've been unfaithful to our marriage. With Thessaly. Your best friend since boarding school. The woman who's been in our home, at our table, in our life, and in our bed. That's insane. Marlowe looked at Thessaly. Tell him that's crazy. Thessaly's hands trembled around her wine glass. She'd gone completely silent, a first. Desmond stood up. Now see here, this is absolutely. Actually, a new voice cut in, it's absolutely true. Everyone turned. A woman stood in the archway to the dining room. Mid-40s, professional, holding a tablet. She wore a blazer and an expression that said she'd seen this exact scene play out 100 times. Who the hell are you? Marlowe demanded. Keiko Tanaka. Private investigator. She walked to the table, set down the tablet. I've been documenting Mrs. Ashford's affair with Ms. Monroe for the past 4 months. Would you like to see the evidence? The room exploded. Marlowe lunged for the tablet. Portia started crying. Desmond made sounds like a tea kettle boiling. Thessaly finally found her voice. This is a setup. Sit down, Lyndon said quietly. Something in his tone cut through the chaos. They all turned to look at him, really look at him, maybe for the first time in years. He wasn't harmless anymore. I'm going to tell you exactly what's been happening, Lyndon continued. And you're all going to listen. Because the next 20 minutes will determine how ugly this gets. Marlowe sank into her chair. She looked dizzy. Lyndon pulled out his phone. Opened a folder. Started scrolling through images projected onto the tablet Keiko had set up. The Malibu Hotel. Timestamp. June 14th. Marlowe and Thessaly checking in at 2 p.m. Checking out the next morning. Text messages. Hundreds of them. God, I can't believe I ever married him. He's like a golden retriever, loyal and boring. At least you have the house and the money, babe. Think of Lyndon as your very dependable ATM. Sometimes I forget he exists until I need something fixed or paid for. Portia gasped at each new message. Desmond's face had gone from purple to grey. That's, Marlowe started. Those are taken out of context. Context, Lyndon repeated flatly. What context makes it okay to call your husband an ATM? To laugh about his existence with the woman you're sleeping with? We weren't, it wasn't. Roommate 47 at the Oceana Malibu. Charged to our joint credit card, the one you use for charity events. You've stayed there 6 times in 8 months. Always with Thessaly. Always on days you told me you were somewhere else. Lyndon looked at Thessaly. She'd shrunk into her chair, her earlier confidence evaporated. And you, he said softly. You called me sweet. Harmless. At the dinner party I cooked for. While you were sleeping with my wife. Lyndon, Thessaly's voice cracked. Did you laugh about me? After. Did you compare notes on how oblivious I was? Silence. Answer me. Yes, Thessaly whispered. I'm sorry. Yes. Marlowe made a sound like a wounded animal. Not from guilt, from betrayal. Because Thessaly had just confirmed everything. Desmond found his voice. Marlowe Grace Kincaid, what have you done? Daddy, it's not, he's twisting everything. The evidence doesn't twist, dear, Keiko said, not unkindly. It just is. Portia was crying harder now. How could you? We raised you better than this. Better than this. Marlowe's voice rose. You raised me to marry for stability. To find someone who'd be reliable and boring and never ask questions. Well, congratulations, I found him. And I've been dying of boredom for 4 years. There it was. The truth she'd never said out loud. Lyndon felt it land. Felt it settle. Felt it bounce right off the armor he'd spent 4 months building. Okay, he said simply. Marlowe blinked. Okay. Okay. You were bored. You wanted excitement. You found it with Thessaly. And you never thought I'd find out because I'm too harmless, too reliable, too stupid to notice. I didn't say stupid. But here's what you didn't know, Marlowe. What none of you knew. Lyndon stood. Walked to the window. Looked out at the Calabasas hills, the twinkling lights of expensive homes just like theirs. I knew, he said quietly. I've known since May 17th. The first time I came home early and found Thessaly's car here. I knew then. Marlowe's face went white. You knew. For 8 months, I've watched you lie. Watched you laugh with Thessaly about your boring husband. Watched you spend my money, not your trust fund, Marlowe, MY money that I've been earning while you networked, on hotel rooms and gifts and a lifestyle you thought you deserved. He turned to face them all. And I documented everything. Every lie. Every hotel charge. Every text message you thought you deleted. I have dates, times, witnesses, financial records. I have enough evidence to bury you in any divorce court in California. Desmond cleared his throat. Now wait just a minute. No sir, you wait. Because here's the part that's going to hurt. Lyndon walked back to the table. Pulled out a folder from the bag he'd brought in earlier. Set it in front of Marlowe. Those are divorce papers. Already filed. 3 weeks ago. Marlowe stared at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. The house, which I've been paying the mortgage on for 3 years from my income, will be sold. Proceeds split. You get half. But every improvement I paid for, every renovation, every piece of furniture I bought, that's documented. That's mine. You can't. The cars. Mine was purchased with my money. Yours was a gift from your parents. You keep it. The joint accounts. Already emptied. My portions transferred legally to my separate accounts that I established 6 months ago. Your lawyer will confirm it's all above board. Garrett had done his job perfectly. My partnership stake, my retirement accounts, my future earnings, all protected with postnuptial documents you signed 2 years ago when you wanted to buy that vacation condo in Aspen. Remember? You didn't read them. You just signed where I pointed." Marlowe's hands shook as she flipped through the papers. "No," she whispered. No, Lyndon, we can fix this." "Fix what?" "The affair. The lies. The fact that you've spent 6 years making me feel small." "I never meant." "Here's what happens next," Lyndon continued, his voice still eerily calm. "You'll agree to the divorce terms as outlined. You'll sign over your half of my retirement accounts, which you're entitled to by law, in exchange for me not pursuing alienation of affection charges against Thessaly." Thessaly's head snapped up. "What?" "California doesn't have that law," Marlowe said desperately. "No, but Connecticut does. Where your parents live. Where your trust fund is administered. And where this lovely dinner conversation is being recorded." He pointed to the small device on the bookshelf. The one that looked like a regular speaker. "That's illegal." Thessaly shouted. "Actually," Keiko interjected, "California is a two-party consent state for phone calls. But for in-person conversations on private property where the property owner, that's Lyndon, by the way, since his name's on the deed, consents to recording? Perfectly legal." Lyndon watched the understanding wash over them. The perfect trap, sprung perfectly. "You son of a bitch," Marlowe breathed. "You planned this. All of it. Every single detail. For 4 months. Why?" Her voice broke. "Why drag it out? Why not just confront me?" For the first time that night, Lyndon's calm cracked. "Just a little. Because I needed you to feel what I felt. That moment when you realize the person you trusted most has been 10 steps ahead of you the whole time. That sick feeling when you understand you never really knew them at all." He leaned forward. "You thought I was harmless. Boring. Your reliable ATM. I needed you to understand that the quietest person in the room is often the one who sees everything." Tears streamed down Marlowe's face. "Real ones this time. I loved you." "No," Lyndon said softly. "You loved what I provided. There's a difference." He straightened. Looked at Desmond and Portia. "I'm sorry you had to see this. Truly. You've been kind to me, in your way. But your daughter made her choices. And now she gets to live with them." Portia wiped her eyes. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing. Just, maybe ask yourself if the stability you wanted for her was worth teaching her that passion doesn't matter. That excitement is something you find outside your marriage instead of building inside it." He turned to Thessaly. "And you're going to pay my legal fees. All of them. It's in the settlement." "I don't have to." "You do. Or I release the recordings to your business partners. The ones who'd be very interested to know that their CMO has been embezzling client entertainment budgets to pay for hotel rooms." Thessaly's face went ashen. "How did you?" "I'm an accountant. Thessaly. Numbers don't lie. People do." He picked up his bag. Looked at Marlowe one last time. "You know what's funny? I actually would have fought for us. If you'd just talked to me. If you'd said you were unhappy, that you needed more, that I wasn't enough, I would have tried. Gone to therapy. Changed. Whatever it took." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But you didn't give me that chance. You just replaced me. Like I was furniture you were tired of looking at." Lyndon. "Sign the papers, Marlowe. Make this easy. Because I promise you, if we go to court, I'll drag every single detail of your affair into public record. Every text. Every hotel receipt. Every lie you told. And your family's reputation, the one your mother cares so much about, will be destroyed." He walked to the door. Paused. "Oh, and Marlowe? That foundation charity event next month. The one you're chairing. I'm the anonymous donor who pledged $500,000. I'm withdrawing that pledge tomorrow. You can explain to the board why." He left them there, in the house that would soon be sold. At the table where he'd served so many dinners no one appreciated. Surrounded by the wreckage of a life built on lies. Keiko followed him out. In his car, his sensible, boring Honda that Marlo had always hated, Lyndon sat for a moment. Just breathing. You okay? Keiko asked. Ask me in a year. For what it's worth. That was the most savage takedown I've seen in 15 years of divorce investigations. And I worked LA celebrity cases. Lyndon laughed. It felt foreign. Thanks, I think. What now? Now. I find out who I am when I'm not trying to be enough for someone who'll never think I am. 3 months later, the divorce was final. Marlo signed everything. She didn't have a choice. Her parents had cut her off, not financially, but emotionally. The scandal had reached their Connecticut social circles. They blamed her for embarrassing the family. The house sold for $3 million. After splitting proceeds and subtracting Lyndon's documented investments, he walked away with just over $2 million. Thessaly's marketing agency collapsed after her business partners discovered the embezzlement. She settled with Lyndon privately, his legal fees plus an additional $100,000 in damages. She moved to Portland. Last he heard, she was working for a small non-profit and driving a used Toyota. Marlo got an apartment in Santa Monica. She tried reaching out twice, once through a mutual friend, once through a handwritten letter. Both times asking if they could talk. Lyndon didn't respond. He bought a condo in San Diego. Smaller. Quieter. With an ocean view that didn't cost him his soul. He dated carefully. Slowly. Women who asked about his day and actually listened to the answer. Women who thought reliability was a virtue, not a character flaw. And sometimes, late at night, he'd think about that dinner. About Marlo's face when she realized she'd underestimated the harmless man she married. He didn't feel good about it. Revenge wasn't satisfying the way movies made it seem. It was just necessary. Like draining an infection. But he'd survived. That was the thing Marlo never understood. The quiet ones always survive. Because they're the ones paying attention. 2 years after the divorce, Lyndon got a call from Garrett. You sitting down? Should I be? Marlo's getting remarried. To some tech investor she met at a conference. Lyndon waited for the sting. The jealousy. Something. It didn't come. Good for her, he said, and meant it. There's more. Her fiancé. He hired a PI to do a background check. Standard stuff for high net worth marriages. And the PI called me. Professional courtesy. Wanted to know if there was anything he should tell his client about Marlo's character. What did you say? Garrett laughed. I said she's a person who makes mistakes. Who got caught. Who hopefully learned something. And that if her new guy is half as smart as you were, he'll build a life where she doesn't feel the need to look elsewhere. Lyndon looked out at the San Diego sunset. Thought about Marlo somewhere in LA. Planning another wedding. Hoping for a different ending. You're a good man, Garrett. Nah. I just know that revenge only feels good for a minute. Living well. That's the thing that lasts. They hung up. Lyndon made dinner. Pasta with homemade sauce. Opened a bottle of decent wine. Put on music he liked, not music Marlo had tolerated. And he realized something. He'd won the moment he stopped playing her game. The divorce was just paperwork. The real victory was remembering that his worth wasn't determined by someone who couldn't see it. 3 years post-divorce, Lyndon was offered a position on the executive committee at his firm. It came with a corner office and a salary that made his younger self weep. He accepted. During the celebration dinner, his colleague Petra, a brilliant auditor with a laugh like wind chimes, asked him something no one had asked in years. What made you decide to become an accountant? Not what made you successful. Not how did you make partner. What made you decide? Like his choice mattered. Like his story mattered. Lyndon thought about it. I like when things balance, he finally said. When the numbers work out. When effort equals outcome. Petra smiled. That's lovely. And rare. What is? Balance. Most people never find it. They talked for 3 hours. About everything and nothing. She didn't check her phone once. When Lyndon drove home that night, he realized he was happy. Not the desperate, proving something happiness of his marriage. Not the bitter satisfaction of successful revenge. Just content. The quiet kind of happiness that doesn't need applause. He never saw Marlowe again. Heard through the grapevine that her second marriage lasted 18 months. Then a third that lasted less. Some people chase excitement their whole lives and call it love. Some people build slowly and call it boring. And some people, the rare ones, figure out that real love is both. Built slowly, burning steady. Lyndon had learned the difference. And that was worth more than any revenge could ever be. So, what do you think? Did Lyndon's calculated revenge go too far? Or did Marlowe get exactly what she deserved? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story taught you anything about never underestimating the quiet ones, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about revenge, redemption, and the moments that change everything. Because trust me, the quietest person in the room is usually the one paying attention. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. The end.